Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I am doing a flip through of my reading journal from 2021 as well as my setup for my 2022 reading journal. So this is my flip through of my 2021 reading journal. And my theme is actually fairly similar between the 2 years. I went with a fairy tale light academia theme, and I used a lot of grid washi tape, a lot of butterfly and nature stickers. I had some stamps, these pretty fairy stickers, and I was super pleased with how this theme turned out for my setup last year. You can feel free to go back and watch it if you're curious about how I set it up. It's a separate video on my channel. And I really did like this theme a lot, but I kind of wanted to change things up for this new year. Some of my favorite spreads from last year, I think, are probably the cover of the year spread, which is where I did a little miniature art drawing / coloring of the cover of every book I read last year. Which I think turned out super cute, but it was super time consuming, and I have a color printer now. I did not last year, so I'm going to be printing them off this year, which is a little bit more of an orthodox way to do it, but I'm very glad I did it last year. It was a really fun thing to try. And then I am going to be changing up some of my challenges and my yearly pages, just because I didn't feel like I used them as much last year. So some of the spreads that I didn't really use, my 21 books to read in 2021, I did not read a lot of them. But part of that was some of the books on there were books that I felt like I should read, and they weren't actually books that were on my, pressing, I really want to read this kind of books. So I'm changing that. And then this is my flip through of my journal spreads throughout the year. I definitely journaled more in the first half of the year. I just got really busy as things went on. I think the Lore Olympus theme is probably my favorite theme from last year. I love that one. Kushiel's Dart is one of my favorite book spreads that I made. And yeah, I'm looking forward to doing this again this year. I'm in the middle of moving right now, and I have a big trip coming up, so I'm kind of in an uproar, and I'm trying to get everything done before I pack everything away and move, and then I won't be able to use my journaling stuff for a little bit until I get everything unpacked at the new place. But after that, I'm hoping to get back into my reading journal, and hopefully I can get some good reading done on my trip as well. So this is my Lore Olympus theme, and as I said, I really like this one. I'm actually thinking about doing it for a theme in my main bullet journal. We'll see. And then I didn't do the monthly theme pages for every month last year, especially as we went into the winter. I just got so busy. Christmas and winter is such a busy time for me. So I just didn't have time for my reading journal, but I did keep everything updated on the yearly spreads. So that's why I take so much time setting those up, because I know that even if the monthly spreads and stats and specific book journal pages fall through, I know I can always go back and put it in my yearly pages, and so I do make sure to keep track of that with every book that I'm reading. Just in case, because that's what's really important to me. I like to have that data of what I read, how many pages, what genres I'm reading, etc. So I am very pleased with a lot of my book journal spreads from last year, and I'm hoping to do a lot more of them this year. I definitely, like I said, I did way more in the first half of the year. But I'm hoping to take some of the pressure off of it, because sometimes, I don't know, you can just build it up into a bigger thing than it is in your mind, and you feel like it has to be perfect. But that's not the point, and the point of why I do this journal is not for them to be like perfect collages or something. It's literally just supposed to be, a diary of my reading history and what I'm thinking about books and how I'm feeling and what I'm reading. So yeah, I'm hoping this year to do a lot more book journal spreads, both fancy and less fancy. So that is my flip through, and now we are moving on to my setup of my 2022 theme. So like I said, I did want to change it up just a little bit for this new year. Last year I did the fairytale / light academia theme, and this year I wanted it to feel more like a fairy, if that makes sense. So still kind of in the same realm, but more like if a fairy tale is looking out, is being on the outside looking in at a fairy story, I wanted this theme to feel like it was within the fairy story, if that makes sense. So you're from the perspective of the fairy. I wanted to do a lot of gold, elaborate borders, like you're literally inside of a fairy book. And it kind of, it went a little bit all over the place. I had a lot of trouble with this theme, actually. I don't know, sometimes, like I said, like the art block or the art fear, it just kind of takes over. But I really do like this frame that I used on the cover page. I tried to stick with a general color palette of gold and pink because I'm still really feeling my February theme from this year, which was sort of gold and pink. And so most of the pages are pretty gold and pink. However, I do have a few pages that I have like a light blue, a light brown. I have a yellow spread. I tried to stick to color palettes of like a fairy garden or just the inside of a fairy tale. And then for this cover page, I also had this printout of a little pink fairy, and I wanted to use this poem by Lisel Mueller. So the poem reads, in passing, how swiftly the strained honey of afternoon light flows into darkness, and the closed bud shrugs off its special mystery in order to break into blossom, as if what exists so that it can be lost and become precious. Which definitely gave me the energy of a fairy tale and of fairies in general. Like I was really feeling the vibe of the little girls who claimed they saw fairies in the early 1900s, and they turned out to be like paper cutouts or something. There were pictures taken. I want to say it was in England, but just that kind of twee, mystic, fairy energy was definitely what I was trying to channel. This next spread actually took me a long time because in my reading journal from last year, I had a bookshelf here filled with 100 books. And then as the year went and I finished books, I would go back and write the title in on the bookshelf, which is very cute in theory. And I do like how it looked last year, but it just wasn't really working for me. because I already write down the book title in a couple of different places as I read. So I decided I wanted to try something that was a little bit less pictographic or whatever, and just cross off the number as I cross it. So I counted out 99 squares. I didn't make my 100 book goal last year, so I'm only lowering it a little bit, but I think I can do 99. I think I've already read 15 this year, and it's early March, so I guess that I'm sort of on time. But yeah, this page gave me a lot of trouble because I couldn't decide how I wanted to do it, and I actually had I probably have like an hour of footage that I just totally deleted because it was just frustrating me, just sketching things and disliking it and erasing it and then sketching something new. So yeah, I mean, I didn't leave it in because it's honestly a little depressing to watch happen, but just know that it happened, and it, sometimes pretty spreads don't just spring fully formed onto the page. It it takes a couple iterations. So yeah, on the one side I've got the read 99 books counter, and then on the other side, this was something from last year that I did want to duplicate. I have a prompts page, which actually shouldn't be called a prompts page, because I just wrote down 5 books that I want to read in each season. So for spring, I have An Enchanted April, Braiding Sweetgrass, World of Wonders, Sun Daughter, Sea Daughter, and Sacred Earth. And I tried to do books for each season that give me the energy of that season. So for the summer, I have some ocean stuff, some mermaid stuff. For the fall, I have some mysteries, like dark academia stuff. And then in the winter, I have some cozy interior kind of energy. So yeah, I'm hoping these will be good, and I do like how this spread turned out, but you would not know that if you saw all the footage of me fussing with it and then getting frustrated. I had to get up and come back to it the next day because I was getting so frustrated. But that's just part of the process. So if you find yourself getting frustrated with a journaling spread, sometimes the best thing to do is literally just to walk away and leave it behind for a little bit. I don't know, it just kind of resets your vision on it, and it kind of resets your priorities. This next spread is for my reading goals on the left, and then I did a reading bingo card on the right, which is something that I've been wanting to try. I'm not exactly sure how I wanted to do it, so I just kind of wrote down some quotes of things that would be nice to try and prioritize reading that I wasn't sure I was going to get to. So like a book featuring a bisexual character, a book featuring a transgender character, etc. Things to sort of intentionally diversify your reading so that you hunt out something that's a little bit more marginalized. And then my goals on the left, I want to read all of the Terry Pratchett books this year. I've had read all Lucy Maud Montgomery books as a goal in past years, but I haven't done it yet, so I've got that as well. She's one of my favorite authors, but I just haven't finished all of her works yet. She has quite a few Anne books. So yeah, I just tried to add some things that I thought might make for good prompts on the bingo card. I'm not super pleased with the aesthetic of this page. I tried a different font for the bingo title that I come back later and I cover up because it doesn't really match just the energy of the page. I do like this font. It's supposed to be, it was giving fairy, very swoopy, like the sort of writing you might see in a fairy book. However, it wasn't really matching the other fonts that I'd already kind of settled on. So I do come back later and I cover that up. But yeah, in general, I think this page is cute. If you are interested in any of the stickers or the washi tapes, I'll try and have everything linked in the description. I really like this folk art sticker pack. I end up using a few more of these later in the video that I used on the bingo page. This is my to be read page, or TBR if you're on booktube/booktalk, and my recommendations page. And I went with more of a strong yellow theme here. I had this really pretty paper of these princesses/flower fairy creatures, and I cut out one of the sunflower girls and I used it with pink. This is just a color combination I've really been obsessed with lately, pink and yellow. I don't know, maybe it's because it's almost spring, but I just can't stop doing pink and yellow stuff, and kind of gold and pink, which is just a variation of pink and yellow if you think about it. So yeah, I used this little iris sticker from my flower fairy pack. I used a couple of these last year. And then I had some butterfly stickers and some little gold flowers, and I think this one turned out super cute. This spread is for my daily reading log and my anticipated releases. So I did this spread last year and I really liked it, so I'm doing it again, but I'm just doing it a little bit different. And then this is another paper that I had, the princesses sort of looking, one of them is like looking up across, and the other one is like looking down. And I really loved, like, it was giving sapphic fairy tale, you know, the yearning princesses looking across at each other, which just made me happy, you know? I think it's really pretty. And yeah, so I have my anticipated releases on the right, and I went back in at the end of this video. I kind of go back in and fill in a lot of, you know, the books I've already read this year, the days I've already read, my anticipated releases as of recording. And yeah, I think this spread turned out super cute. I am just obsessed with like the pink and gold, as I keep saying. It's just such a classic and pretty and striking color combination for me right now. But yeah, I'm really obsessed with how this spread turned out. So this is my 22 books to read in 2022 spread, which I did last year, if you recall from the flip through, but it didn't work for me last year. And like I said earlier, I think it's because I kind of picked books that I thought I should read, or that were on like big lists of, like, you know, books to read in the lifetime, or the most important books that have come out lately, or something like that, which, if that works for you, then that's great. But I don't know, for me, I just needed to have something that I had a more personal connection with. So a lot of these books on here are authors that I have been interested in. Like, I follow them on Twitter and I know I like their work. So Laura Weymouth is one of those. Consuming Fire is on here. That's her book that comes out this fall. Squire is on here, which is a graphic novel that I am so excited to read. It actually, I think I want to say it came out a few days ago at this point. Silk Fire comes out this year. It's mostly books that I'm personally invested. Like I follow the authors on Twitter or something, or like I've been thinking about the book for a long time. And yeah, I mean, I guess that would be my advice, is to like make sure you're putting books, if it's making it to a list, like, if I only read 22 books this year, don't just add it because you think you should add it. Really make sure that you think it's going to be a book that you like, or a book that's going to be interesting or good for you. So I have like a fashion history, a global view book, because I've wanted to learn more about fashion history around the world, and like how clothing has changed throughout different cultures and different periods. I have a book about like reality TV, so it's not all like light, but I'm really genuinely excited to read all of these books, which is not something that I could have said about my spread last year. This next spread is just gonna be a fun challenge spread because I love Taylor Swift. She's my favorite artist, and I was like, I really want to do a Taylor Swift reading challenge. And I looked online, and there are tons of Taylor Swift reading challenges out there. So if you Google, I'm sure you can find one that works for you. But I wasn't really into the ones that I found, and I kind of decided I wanted to make my own. So what I did was I printed out a picture of each album cover, including the re-recordings, and I left room for the future re-recordings. A discerning eye will note that I have the albums that Taylor owns at the center of the spread, and the albums she does not at the exterior. And then for each album, I want to try and read a book that reminds me of that album. So like that gives me the energy of the album. So for example, for folklore, I think I'm going to try and read like something with mythology, maybe something set in like the Appalachian Mountains or something, because I do think that folklore picture was taken there. Lover is easy. I can do a romance novel. So if that makes sense, like a coming of age thing for 1989, maybe set in like a big city. Just something that matches the vibe of each album. And maybe I won't know until after I've read the book that it matched the vibe of a certain album. But yeah, I'm really excited to do this challenge. I think it'll be really fun. This next spread is sort of inspired by a plant-based bride spread for her reading journal. We actually have the same washi tape. When I saw her use it, I was like, oh no, because I was planning on using that tape for this spread, and now that she's used it before me, it looks like I'm copying her. But it's just really good, around the world kind of washi tape. But yeah, this is my reading around the world spread. So I wrote out a column for each continent, and on the full page I have 4 continents, 2 apiece, sharing a column. And the goal is to try and read books from different places around the world. And me personally, I think I'm going to try and focus on reading about like folk art traditions and reading about like poetry, folk art. I really like linguistics and languages, embroidery and textile traditions. So focusing on those around the world in particular, just because I really want to expand my knowledge as an artist and expand my understanding of different areas, artistic histories. I find that super, super interesting. It's always been the part of anthropology that's sort of fascinated me the most. How people did art and how people did textiles and like weaving patterns and embroidery patterns, and how they vary, like they'll vary from region to region, even super close regions. I just think that's super, super interesting. So that is my goal for this spread. And I have these stickers that are folk art stickers. I want to say they are based on Czech folk art, but I will have the link in the description to the artist shop because they are beautiful. This next spread is sort of a duplication of one that I did for my reading journal last year. This is a overarching kind of books read this year stats page. So I have the title, the author. I added a category for if it's an ebook or if it's physical because I got Kindle Unlimited and I have been checking out books through my local library has an online connection through, I think the app is called like Hoopla or something. So I've actually been reading way more ebooks than I did last year. So I added a category for ebook versus physical, language, genre, pages, and date read. I used this spread all the time last year. Last year I made too many. I made like 3 spreads a piece for the stats and the book covers, which is what I'm working on here now, which was far too much. I did use, I think I used 3 total spreads for the book covers last year, but I think it just makes more sense to make them as I go if I need them, and I can like link it back through tabbing or indexing because I don't like wasted space, and I had like a couple of wasted pages last year. So I only made 1 a piece for the stats page, and then for the book covers page I've already almost filled up the book covers page, so I'm gonna have to make a new one there soon. But yeah, I think these turned out beautiful. I stuck with the pink and gold theme here as well. So here is when I went back and I filled in all of the info that is already started from this year, given that I am making this journal in March. I've already read, like I said, I think I've read 15 books this year already. And so I printed out my book covers, I filled in my information on the reading logs, my anticipated releases, stuff like that. If you notice the blurs at the end, that's because not all of the books that I read are family friendly, and that's totally fine. But I know I have young viewers and I don't want anybody Googling anything they shouldn't. So I do try and blur out anything that is not family friendly. And yeah, I think this is such a fun theme and I'm really proud of how it turned out. I definitely highly recommend, if you like this theme, just Google like Art Nouveau borders, because that was definitely a lot of my inspiration for the borders and the kind of ornate gilded look. And yeah, if you're interested in any of the products, I will try and have links and information in the description for everything I used. So here is my final flip through. Let me know what you thought of this video, what you thought of this theme. It did end up being fairly similar to the one I did last year, but it is slightly distinct and different, and I really like it a lot. I love the pink and gold, as I said. Yeah, and I'm really excited to do another year of reading journaling and yeah, hopefully reading some really good books. Let me know if you guys do any spreads or themes inspired by any of my spreads that I did here. I'd love to hear about it. And yeah, if you made it this far, let me know what's the next book you're going to read this year. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time.